For member statements today, we will hear from the honourable members for the districts of Exploits, Topsail-Paradise, Torngat Mountains, Bonavista, and Terra Nova. The honourable member for Exploits.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I rise in this honourable House today to mark the recent passing of Jim Kennedy of Bishop Falls on Friday, February 1st, 2019. Jimmy left in his wake a legacy of hockey prowess and community service, highlighted by Herder Memorial Trophy Championships with the Conception Bay Seabees, Corner Brook Royals, and the Grand Falls Cataracts, culminating with his induction into the Newfoundland and Labrador Hockey Hall of Fame. Volunteering, be it for coaching, civic events, or being a member of the Lions Club, were just some of his vast array of community involvement as well. The giving spirit and social fabric of the town of Bishop Falls, and indeed our province, is all the better because of his having been here. I ask all honourable members to join with me in raising our hockey sticks to salute the master of the poke check, Jimmy Kennedy.
To recognize the member for Topsail-Paradise.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize Mrs. Bertha Parsons, a resident of Meadow Creek Retirement Centre in the beautiful district of Topsail-Paradise, who celebrated her 100th birthday on January 24th, 2019. Born in 1919, Mrs. Parsons celebrated her birthday always on February 14th, until she applied for her passport a number of years later, and to her surprise, she determined she was born on January 24th. Mrs. Parsons was born and raised in Salmon Cove. There she met her husband, Reg Parsons, and they were married in 1939 at George Street Church in St. John's, and together they raised 3 children. Mrs. Parsons was a stay-at-home mom who never got her license, but was an active member in the church. She earned extra money back in the 50s and 60s by doing clothing alterations such as cuffing and hemming pants for $1. Mrs. Parsons said her favorite story was when she was 14 years old, where she went to Labrador on her father's schooner for the summer fishery. And she got shipwrecked on Smoky, Labrador. After being stranded for 2 days, they were picked up by the SS Kyle. On board, they gave her the best bowl of rice soup she ever tasted, and she had her first cup of coffee. Up until the passing of Mr. Parsons in June of 1991, Mrs. Parsons has lived alone and kept house until September of 2017, until her move into Meadow Creek Retirement Centre. Mr. Speaker, I ask all honourable members to join me in wishing Mrs. Bertha Parsons a happy 100th birthday. Thank you.
I think 100 years gets you a few more seconds. The honourable member for Torngat Mountains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in this honourable House today to recognise some incredible talent that comes from the north coast of Labrador. Mr. Speaker, in preservation of our culture, the Indigenous people of our land sometimes look towards language, but we also look towards preservation of tradition when it comes to everyday life in our customs. Mr. Speaker, our heritage is an integral part of preservation of Indigenous culture and an important piece of preservation of traditional garments. In our case, Ms. Chantel Evans of McCovic, Ms. Donna Dicker of Nain, earlier this year designed traditional garments for the renowned extreme cold clothing company, Canada Goose. Chantel and Donna were among 14 Inuit seamstresses from across northern Canada that made the traditional, unique atigi as part of Canada Goose program and campaign highlighting Indigenous clothing. Atigi is the Inuit word for parka. Mr. Speaker, Donna and Chantel descend from a long line of families who for many generations made traditional clothing from materials harvested by our people along the coast. Chantel and Donna are both very honoured to have their traditional garments showcased by the Canada Goose Company in New York City earlier this year. Their traditional garments or outages, Mr. Speaker, are valued at anywhere between $500 and $7,500. Mr. Speaker, I ask all honourable members to join me in congratulating Chantel and Donna on their creativity and the preservation of culture clothing for bringing it to a part of the world eager to learn about it. Thank you.
The honourable member for Bonavista.
Mr. Speaker, on February 12th, I had the privilege of attending Canada's Agriculture Day at Anthony Padden Elementary in Musgravetown. Supported by Agriculture in the Classroom NL, students were first introduced to a number of different displays and hands-on exhibits that support the agriculture industry. This included vermicomposting, beekeeping, getting a milk mustache, having their blood pressure taken, and even seeing a hen lay an egg. Students, teachers, staffs, and guests were entertained by the swinging bells and bored by us politicians, including the MHA for Corner Brook, who tried to answer his questions on agriculture. Finally, Chef Roger Dooling and his team provided a healthy lunch with locally sourced products, including from Leicester Farms. An event such as this couldn't happen without significant support. I'd like to acknowledge the NL Federation of Agriculture, NL Beekeepers Association, Agriculture and Agri-Foods Canada, Fisheries and Land Resources, Dairy Farmers NL, School Milk Foundation, Eastern Health, local farmers, and countless volunteers. The communities which Anthony Padden serves have a significant agriculture history, and it is important to acknowledge this. I ask all honourable members join me in congratulating the students, teachers, and staff of Anthony Padden on hosting such a successful event.